Hi, we are at India Mobile Congress, which is being held in New Delhi today. And we have with us Mr. Shekar Ayyar. You are the EVP and General Manager, Telco and Edge Cloud for VMware. Welcome, Shekar.
Thank you, Yogesh.
So, having been part of IMC for the whole day today, what's your take on the first day?
So I've been very positively impressed. I was very pleasantly surprised to see the momentum here in India around topics like 5G and IoT, edge computing, as well as things like connected cars. And it was great to see how the industry is coming together and mobilizing around a transformative technology that otherwise feels like it's mostly in other parts of the world, because we felt like India has just deployed 4G, so is 5G going to be interesting. So given all that, I was actually very, very pleasantly surprised.
Okay, great. So I believe VMware works pretty closely with global telcos.
Yep.
On the telco, on the innovation which are happening on the software side.
Yes.
So can you talk a little bit about what the latest initiatives on the global side as well as on the India side?
Yeah, so overall for the last probably about 3 to 4 years, we've been working with a lot of the telecom carriers globally in terms of taking their core networks and virtualizing them in preparation both for deploying more applications faster on a 4G network, but also making it ready for 5G. What we are doing now is we are starting to see that same momentum around creating this telco cloud infrastructure is becoming relevant in the context of radio disaggregation as well.
Okay.
So increasingly we are starting to see more interest in next generation radio architectures that can similarly be deployed in a virtual environment.
Okay.
So we are today deployed in over 100 carriers in an operational form with some form of virtualization in their network. We're also noticing that enterprise use cases are becoming very relevant for more and more carriers as they are trying to increase their margins as well as their revenue profiles. So as an example, services like SD-WAN for branch networking as well as security services delivery to the enterprise. Carriers and telcos are a big part of taking such solutions to the market. And then finally in edge and IoT as well, we're working with a number of carriers in terms of their ability to go and both provide IoT services as well as support industrial automation at scale through edge computing. So these are all the trends that we're working globally with carriers on.
Okay. So can you throw a little light on the India initiatives of VMware?
Yeah, so in India in particular, I would say since Jio has been here, 4G has become the primary driver for a lot of the activity. It's actually forced a lot of the other carriers to also jump into the 4G bandwagon and catch up to where the technology deployed by Jio has been. So what we are seeing is a lot of interest in terms of all of the carriers looking at NFV and virtualization for deployment of 4G services faster.
Okay.
And then as they are doing this, I think they are also exploring the ability to then make this more 5G ready. So they want to make sure that all the transformation that they're doing in the context of 4G, they don't have to redo and recreate in the context of 5G. Many carriers have gone down the open stack path and with, I would say, limited success. And so one of the other things that we are doing is working with these carriers, helping them essentially realize the benefits of what they thought they would get out of their open stack deployments. And so we're participating in that with the carriers.
Quite interesting. So at the show we saw a lot of buzz around 5G. So what's your take on it, and when do you see India, jumping onto this bus of 5G? How soon can we?
Yeah, so first of all, I think 5G becomes a really relevant technology for multiple reasons. It's the first time I would say that carriers have the ability to go in and truly compete in the cloud economy. It's also the first time that you're seeing a lot of convergence between wireline and wireless technologies, as well as convergence between IT and the network side of carriers. So with that, the software technologies like the ones that we at VMware have, as well as complete systems between VMware and Dell, we are presenting architectures that allow these carriers now to deploy multiple different network functions as well as container-based applications on top of the same infrastructure. So this is why I'm very optimistic that 5G is going to create many new sources of revenue for the carriers, as opposed to just being the next generation wireless technology. Now, in terms of deployment timing in India, I expect the timing in India to be a little later than probably the top 2 or 3 markets, and the top 2 or 3 markets being US, Western Europe, Japan, Korea, China, etc. But with that said, I actually think the scales of technology deployment in India will be immense. And so once a technology is proven to operate in India, it can operate pretty much anywhere else in the world in terms of uptime and reliability.
Quite interesting. One last question, Shekar. In the down the line, 2 to 3 years from now, where do you see the Indian telco industry moving towards? And what are the key takeaways that one should look at from a vendor or a equipment provider standpoint?
Yeah, so I think that right now carriers are struggling a little bit because they're all sort of recoiling to figure out, okay, how are they going to get better margins and higher monetizability out of their consumer customer base. Over the course of the next 2-3 years, I do think that a significant amount of this will shift to the enterprise. And so Indian carriers will find that a greater and greater portion of their revenue comes from enterprise use cases, whether that is network connectivity, network as a service, or application delivery, or for that matter, things like CDNs and content delivery networks. These are all applications that carriers will deliver to the enterprise. Simultaneously, I think things like private 5G and on-premise connectivity that is a hybrid between 5G technologies as well as Wi-Fi. These will also become interesting use cases for how carriers deploy solutions and services. And so we see that this is what is going to essentially be the saving grace of the Indian telecoms industry, is that while they are able to deploy new services using edge computing for their B2C and consumer use cases, they're also going to significantly move the needle in terms of what kind of services and solutions they deploy for enterprise use cases.
So that leads me to another leading question on the adoption of 5G or base technology, let's say IoT, AI. Which are the verticals that you see where India will take a lead once 5G is deployed, or let's say 4G, the evolved version of this technology is deployed actually in the market, be it on the private side of it or on the larger enterprise side of it?
Yeah, so I think there are a lot of industries that have been talked about, things like autonomous vehicles, smart and safe cities, telehealth and remote medicine, manufacturing automation. So my sense is that these are all industries that are ripe for transformation. And given the scale at which India operates, I think much like China, there is a local market here that can be a sufficient market to prove out these technologies, right? I mean, so the number of cars that are on the roads, or the number of people that are getting operated in a surgical sense. So as a result, I think that there is going to be the ability to go in, take these technologies, test them out, mature them, and then make them ready for prime time in a global sense. So I'm very bullish about the ability for the Indian market to therefore push and support not just the production but also the consumption of these technologies to a point that they can then become globally ready.
Thank you so much for talking to us, Shekar.